Today, we are unpacking a story that's got everything: a top secret hardware project, a leaked salary number that's making heads spin in Silicon Valley, and a look at the totally different playbooks the East and West are using to try and win the AI war. All right, let's get into it. Right now, the whole AI industry feels a lot like a university campus during finals. Over in the East, you've got the engineering and math departments. We're talking about giants like Baidu and Moonshot AI. They're busy getting huge grants, building these state-of-the-art labs, and really focusing on the fundamentals. They are absolutely playing the long game. But here in the West, something totally different is going on. It's like the theoretical physics department over at OpenAI just looked up from their whiteboards and decided, you know what? Equations aren't enough. They're pivoting from just writing code to actually building the machine themselves. So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with that great pivot into hardware, then look at the absolutely insane money that's fueling all of this. We'll see how China's responding with its own silicon rebellion, bring things back down to earth with a serious warning from the real world, and then wrap up with the critical choice facing the architects of our future. Okay, so first up, OpenAI's secret move into hardware. It's codenamed Project Gumdrop. And seriously, this thing represents a massive, massive shift from just making software to building actual physical devices. Now, the really fascinating part of this story is the supply chain. We've learned that production has moved from Luxshare in China over to Foxconn, Apple's famous partner. But this is not just about switching factories. It's a huge geopolitical pivot. By moving production to Vietnam and right here in the US, OpenAI is making a very clear statement. They're bypassing China entirely. So that leads to the million-dollar question, right? What exactly is this device they're building? Well, sources are describing Project Gumdrop as either a smart pen or some kind of portable audio gadget. The concept is actually pretty simple but incredibly powerful. It uses a camera and a microphone to connect the physical world to the digital one, so it can turn your handwritten notes or your spoken commands instantly into actions inside ChatGPT. And there's always a but, there is a huge catch. A massive technical hurdle is standing right in their way, and people are calling it the audio accuracy gap. Here's the bottom line. OpenAI's current audio models are just way too slow for the kind of smooth, real-time conversation that a piece of hardware like this needs. So to fix it, they've actually merged several of their internal teams to build a totally new audio architecture from the ground up. And get this, their target is Q1 2026 for a model that can handle what they are calling emotional back-and-forth conversation. So the hardware is basically waiting for the software brain to catch up. Now, this kind of ambition, as you can imagine, costs money. A lot of money. And a recent leak shows us exactly where that money is going. It's the price you pay to keep genius in-house. According to financial data that was reported by the Wall Street Journal, the average stock-based compensation for each employee at OpenAI is $1.5 million. Just let that sink in for a second. That is a mind-boggling number, and it's designed to do one thing: keep top talent locked in for the long haul. And this chart just brilliantly shows how off the charts that number really is. Before an IPO, your average tech giant spends about 6% of its revenue on stock compensation. OpenAI, they're projected to spend 46%. That's not just a little more, that's a nearly 34 times difference. They are playing a completely different financial game than anyone else. This is the classic golden handcuff strategy. By offering these massive stock packages in a private company, they're making it almost impossible for employees to leave. I mean, who would walk away from a potential lottery ticket payout when the company finally goes public? And the company expects these costs to grow by another $3 billion a year through 2030. The war for talent is being fought with stock options. And all of this is the backdrop for Meta's latest move. They just spent $3 billion to acquire Manus AI, a startup that had to cut all of its Chinese ties just to get the deal approved. You see, Zuckerberg isn't just buying technology. He's buying the only people who can compete with the kind of golden handcuff salaries OpenAI is throwing around. So while the West is burning through billions on cool hardware gadgets and talent retention, what's happening in the East? Well, a very different strategy is playing out. While the West is building pens, the East is building the chips. This slide gives you a great snapshot of the surge in Asia. But notice the focus here. Baidu's chip division, Kunlunxin, isn't just raising money. They're going for a $3 billion IPO specifically to build their own
homegrown semiconductors. Then you've got Moonshot AI, which raised $500 million not to rush to an IPO, but to double down on deep tech and build its K3 model, a direct challenger to GPT-5. And Alibaba is just laser-focused on perfecting the core skills of its models.
For instance, Alibaba's latest image model, Qwen Image 2512, claims to have finally fixed that fake, plastic look you see in a lot of AI-generated people. By mastering realistic skin and text, it's now the #1 open-source model in blind tests. See? This is a focus on foundational quality, not just flashy products. But as these AI models get more powerful, more realistic, it's really easy to lose sight of their impact in the real world. So let's ground this whole conversation with a warning from reality, the actual human cost of this automation race. A story recently shared in the New York Times really stuck with me. It followed a copywriter named Brian Grow. After he lost his job to AI, he asked a chatbot for some career advice. Its suggestion? You should become a tree feller. And he actually did it. He took the advice, and the result was serious physical injury. His story is this dark, perfect metaphor for white-collar displacement. He warns that the same economic forces that gutted factory towns are now coming for office workers. The AI can point you in a direction, sure, but it has absolutely no concept of whether you'll actually survive the journey. And this brings us to a critical warning from someone inside the tech world itself. Instagram CEO Adam Mosseri said that AI will make authenticity infinitely reproducible. His advice? Human skepticism has to become our default setting for everything we see online. The line between what's real and what's generated is pretty much gone. So, where does all this leave us? We've seen a few key battlefronts emerge in this AI war. Let's recap what this all means for the architects of our future. First, there's the hardware push. AI is no longer just software. It's moving into the physical world. Second, the talent war, where genius is being bought and secured with billion-dollar golden handcuffs. Third, the Eastern Front, where China is being super strategic, focusing on building foundational chips, not just consumer apps. And finally, the human cost. Job displacement isn't a theory anymore, and the systems we're building have zero built-in empathy. And that leaves us with one last provocative question to think about. As we hand over more and more of our decision-making to these systems, we have to ask ourselves, the AI can give you a direction, but who is ultimately responsible if you don't survive the journey?